So, have you ever found yourself in, like, your most important relationships, maybe even your romantic one, feeling like you're just going through the motions? Despite the love, it sometimes feels like the connections become more functional than really intimate and present.
Yeah, that functional feeling is so common.
Right. Well, if that rings a bell at all, then this deep dive is definitely for you. Today, we're getting into partner yoga for intimacy and flow.
And it's important to say up front,
Yeah.
this isn't about those crazy acrobatic poses you see online.
No, exactly. Not at all. It's about something much deeper, transforming those routine connections into something really vibrant, really present.
It really goes back to the root of yoga itself, meaning union. Not just poses, but creating this sacred container for connection between two people. That whole idea is just inherently fascinating, I think.
That phrase, sacred container, really lands. So as we dive into the sources today, personal stories, research, practical guides, our mission is really to pull out the key insights. How this mix of moving, breathing, connecting together can genuinely awaken intimacy and flow in ways you might not expect.
Let's dig in.
Okay, so let's start by painting a picture. Where are a lot of relationships before they find something like this? Imagine this. You love each other, but you're kind of living parallel lives.
Yeah.
You get home, you're exhausted. Maybe you just collapse in front of the TV or screens.
The daily grind takes over.
Totally. And intimacy starts feeling, well, functional. That going through the motions feeling we talked about. Maybe sex becomes scheduled, predictable, almost like checking a box.
Right, checking a box. It's not that the love's gone.
No, not at all.
But the presence is missing, that mindful connection.
Exactly.
So the big question the sources pose is, how do you actually move beyond that? How do you get from just functional to real presence and vulnerability? And the material we looked at describes this journey, often starting right there, from that place of stress and just not being fully present with each other.
So what was the spark, the catalyst that actually got couples to try something different? I imagine there's a fair bit of skepticism at first, like yoga for our relationships.
Absolutely. Skepticism is definitely part of the story. But a key thing that comes up again and again is discovering something like a workshop on, say, sacred intimacy through movement.
Okay.
People would go in maybe feeling a bit doubtful, but they often come out feeling, well, transformed, glowing even, more present, more sensual than they'd felt in ages.
Wow, glowing. That's quite something. So, okay, partner yoga. At its core, what's the actual goal? It's more than just doing poses together, right?
Way more. At its heart, it's really about presence. Vulnerability, creating that sacred space where you can truly see your partner and feel truly seen by them.
See and be seen.
Yeah. And going back to that Sanskrit meaning, yoga as union, it's not just mind and body. It's aiming for this deeper union between souls, really, creating the container for that profound connection.
Okay, so it's definitely moving beyond just the physical. We already know yoga on its own has benefits, right? There's loads of research. Stress reduction, better range of motion, pain relief, even good for your heart and circulation.
Oh, true. Solid benefits.
But how does that change or get amplified when you bring a partner into it?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Those benefits definitely get amplified. But the research also shows it strengthens communication and trust in ways that go way beyond just the physical practice.
How so?
It seems to deepen the capacity for intimacy by helping couples recognize what some sources call the soul attributes of their partner.
Soul attributes. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It's like seeing beyond the everyday personality, getting an intuitive sense of who they are at a much deeper level. And that fosters a really profound kind of connection.
Okay, I can see that. So let's imagine you decide to try this at home.
Yeah.
You get the mats out. And I can just picture you're looking at each other like, okay, now what?
Light chuckle. Yeah, that initial awkwardness is definitely a recurring theme in the accounts we read.
I bet. So how do you even start?
Well, one of the simplest starting points mentioned is a seated spinal twist. You just sit back to back.
Okay.
Focus on breathing together for a moment, then slowly twist in opposite directions, maybe using each other for gentle leverage.
Simple enough.
It sounds simple, right? But that feeling of your partner's breath, their back against yours, starting to synchronize, people describe that as a surprisingly powerful moment, suddenly feeling completely present, even if you were fumbling a bit.
Just from breathing back to back.
Yeah. And even the simplest poses, they require trust. You really can't fake your attention when you're supposed to be supporting someone's weight, even lightly.
Good point.
And then there's eye contact, sustained eye contact.
Oh, yeah. That could be intense.
Super intense. Many sources mentioned how uncomfortable that felt at first, but they also realized that confronting that discomfort, that vulnerability, was exactly what their relationship had been missing. They'd been avoiding that level of real intimacy.
That makes sense. Avoiding the intensity. Okay, so besides the poses and eye contact, breathwork seems huge here.
Huge. It's often described as where the real magic happens.
The sources mention tantric breathing specifically. How does that work in this context? Is it about activating sexual energy?
It can be, yes. Building intimacy and magnetism between partners is definitely part of it. But even more fundamentally, synchronized breathing does something really practical.
Like what?
It facilitates deep relaxation. And when you're both relaxed, communication naturally gets better. Conflict resolution becomes more efficient because you've created this kind of gentle pause.
A pause.
Yeah, a space to approach things clearly with an open heart. The sources suggest that even just 5 minutes a day of breathing together, synchronizing your breath, can totally change communication patterns, moving from being reactive to more centered.
5 minutes. That sounds almost too simple to be that effective.
It does, but think about the impact of intentionally calming your nervous systems together before you try to talk through something difficult.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Are there other specific breathing techniques mentioned?
Definitely. There's talk of circular breathing, inhaling and exhaling without pausing to create this continuous energy flow and really sync you up.
Okay.
And then there's breath of fire, that rapid, rhythmic, diaphragmatic breathing. It builds a lot of energy and heat.
Right, I know that one from regular yoga.
Exactly. Now imagine doing that synchronized with your partner, facing each other, maybe even with eye contact. It becomes incredibly activating.
Wow.
And the accounts suggest that sometimes just doing this kind of breath work with real presence and connection, well, it could naturally lead to passionate intimacy.
So the eroticism isn't forced, it just emerges.
Precisely. It emerges from that state of full presence with each other.
Okay, so let's say a couple gets into a rhythm with this.
Mm-hmm.
What does a typical session actually look like? How often? How long?
The sources often describe settling into a routine, maybe 3 times a week, for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
And it usually starts with intentionally creating that sacred space we mentioned.
How do they do that?
Simple things, really. Turning off phones, that's a big one. Maybe lighting some candles, putting on some calming music, perhaps burning a little sandalwood or sage. It's about consciously shifting gears from the everyday rush.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. Creating a demarcation. Okay, now we're connecting.
So the space is set, then what?
Often there's an opening ritual, something like a heart connection.
Tell me more.
Sitting cross-legged, facing each other, maybe placing your hands on your own heart or even on your partner's heart, just breathing together, making eye contact for a few minutes to really ground in presence.
Okay. Simple but powerful.
Very. And then they move into a sequence of poses. Some gentle, others maybe more challenging, but all requiring that deep trust we talked about.
Could you give some examples?
Sure. Things like partner boat pose, where you're balancing, holding hands, maybe feet touching, or double downward dog, where one person does downward dog and the other places their feet gently on their partner's back for support, doing their own version.
Okay, I can picture those. Sounds like communication is crucial there.
Absolutely essential. Constant check-ins. How does this feel? Is this okay? A little more pressure, less. You're constantly tuning in.
And I guess those skills, asking for what you need, really listening to your partner's body and cues, honoring boundaries, even deciding together when to push your edges a little.
Exactly.
That doesn't just stay on the mat, does it?
Not at all. That's the point. It starts transforming how you communicate and connect in every other part of your life.
Let's talk directly about the impact on intimacy, the sexual aspect, because it seems to be where people report really dramatic shifts.
Oh, absolutely. The sources consistently describe the transformation as profound, sometimes within just a month of regular practice.
From what to what?
From that feeling of, scheduled, perfunctory sex, their words, to something described as a flowing intuitive dance that could last for hours.
Wow. How does that happen? What's the connection?
It seems to be a direct transfer of skills. That presence you cultivate on the mat, the breath awareness, the full body connection, it all naturally carries over into intimate moments. It teaches partners to savor the journey, as one source put it, instead of just rushing towards an outcome or a goal.
Savoring the journey.
Yeah. And in the broader context of tantric yoga, which often informs these practices, it's about combining postures, breath, meditation, even mantra to create that sacred space for a deeper union, often framed as uniting masculine and feminine energies within and between partners.
And those energies aren't necessarily about gender, right?
Yeah.
More like archetypes.
Exactly. More like active and receptive forces present in everyone. It's about embracing all aspects of yourself and your partner.
And this leads to what the sources call erotic flow.
Yes, that constant current of attraction, appreciation, and desire. And it's not just sexual, it colors everything.
How so? Like, give me an example.
Okay, like feeling this wave of attraction, just watching your partner move with strength and grace in a challenging pose. It's a different kind of appreciation. It transcends maybe more conventional ideas of what's sexy.
I get that. It's attraction born from presence and admiration.
Mm.
So how do you actually cultivate that flow, that deeper intimacy through the poses themselves? Are there specific ones that really stand out in the accounts?
Definitely. Some poses were described as real game changers.
Like which ones?
Well, partner child's pose comes up a lot. One person is in child's pose and the other drapes gently over their back, chest to back, breathing together, heart to heart. People described feeling incredibly nurtured, almost held by the universe.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Gentle. Very gentle, very nurturing. Then there's seated forward fold with twist, which requires really tender communication as you help each other deepen the stretch.
Okay. Anything more challenging?
Yes. For something more advanced, partner camel pose. Both partners are kneeling, facing away, leaning back into camel, and holding onto each other's ankles for support.
Wow, okay. That sounds vulnerable.
Extremely. It's incredibly heart-opening. Physically and emotionally, it requires absolute trust, and it definitely brings stuff up.
Like what kind of stuff?
Fears about being seen, really seen. Fears about being fully supported or maybe not being strong enough to support your partner. I read one account where someone started crying during it.
From pain.
No, not pain, just the sheer emotional intensity of feeling so open, so held, so vulnerable with their partner, and working through those feelings together right there in the safety of the practice. That's what builds incredible resilience and vulnerability in the rest of the relationship.
It sounds like it's not always just bliss and flow then. It brings up challenges.
Absolutely. It's not always blissful. The sources are clear about that. Ego stuff comes up.
Like what?
Feelings of inadequacy. I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough. Or maybe resistance to being that vulnerable because, as one source perfectly put it, you can't fake presence in partner yoga. If you're checked out or defensive, it shows.
Right. So how did those difficulties become helpful? You mentioned they turn into a gift.
Yes, exactly. Because the practice gives you a space to actually notice those patterns. The defensiveness, the inadequacy, the unavailability in yourselves and each other. And then you practice coming back to the breath, back to center, back to connection.
You learn the skill of returning.
Precisely. There was this great anecdote. A couple started a session still kind of tense from an earlier disagreement. No words were needed about it during the yoga, but just breathing together, moving together. The argument started to feel, well, petty, insignificant compared to the love they were feeling in that moment. It dissolved. And that opened the door for real healing conversations later, off the mat. That's when many couples realized, okay, this isn't just exercise. This is becoming a spiritual practice for us, a sanctuary.
A sanctuary. That's a powerful idea. Now, for someone who might hear spiritual practice and feel a bit hesitant, what are the really concrete, down-to-earth benefits they'd get from seeing it that way?
Oh, the tangible benefits are huge. Even if you don't resonate with the spiritual label, it translates into a deeper sense of peace in your daily life, a greater capacity for empathy, like really feeling what your partner might be going through, and a much stronger sense of emotional safety in the relationship. You argue less reactively, you appreciate the small moments more, you just feel fundamentally more supported and understood, even when you're not doing yoga.
Okay, that makes sense. So for someone listening now thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, maybe this is worth trying.
Yeah.
How do you actually get started at home? What's the practical advice?
First off, the source is stress. You absolutely do not need to be flexible or have any yoga experience. That's not the point.
Right. Connection, not perfection.
Exactly. The most important thing is creating that sacred container. Find some uninterrupted time, even if it's short to start. Dim the lights, maybe light a candle, put on some music you both like. Just signal that this time is different.
Okay. Set the mood. Then what poses?
Start simple. Really simple, like Easy seat, just sitting cross-legged facing each other, maybe hands on your knees or your partner's knees, and just breathe together for a few minutes. Feel the shared rhythm.
That's it.
That can be it to start. Or the back-to-back breathing we mentioned earlier. Sit with your backs touching, close your eyes, synchronize your breath. The power is in its simplicity and the shared presence.
Go slow, I imagine.
Definitely go slow. The sources emphasize this because the practice can bring up emotions unexpectedly.
Sure.
And remember, communication is everything. Keep checking in. How does this feel? Is this okay? Need an adjustment.
Yeah, connection, presence, intimacy. That's the goal, not nailing the perfect pose. How often should beginners aim for?
Maybe start with 20 or 30 minutes, twice a week, just to build the habit, make it part of your routine.
And while you can use books or online videos, is taking a class sometimes a good idea?
Highly recommended, especially at the beginning or if you want to try more complex poses. A qualified instructor can really help with safe alignment and offer modifications. But yeah, books and online resources are great too.
Okay, one thing that seems really crucial here is boundaries and consent. How does that play out in partner yoga?
It's absolutely fundamental. The sources make a strong point that being in a romantic relationship doesn't mean you have unlimited access to your partner's body or energy.
Right.
So establishing clear consent practices within the yoga is key. That means actually asking permission before initiating touch or moving into a pose that requires weight bearing. Is it okay if I place my hand here? Are you ready for me to lean on you?
Verbalizing it.
Yes, and crucially, ensuring either person can call for a pause, ask for an adjustment, or stop a pose at any time without needing to give a long explanation.
And that actually builds trust rather than hindering the flow.
Exactly. It creates the safety needed to explore your edges, to be vulnerable, because you know your no or your wait will be respected instantly. That intentional consent process is foundational.
And how does that boundary awareness translate off the mat?
Well, the practice helps you become much more attuned to each other's nervous systems in daily life. You start to recognize the subtle signs when your partner is feeling overwhelmed or maybe starting to dissociate or shut down.
Okay.
And instead of reacting negatively, you learn how to gently invite them back to presence, maybe with a conscious breath together or a specific kind of touch you've practiced. Those skills become invaluable for navigating intimacy and conflict.
That leads into the deeper dimensions. Many sources talk about this practice opening up levels of connection people didn't even know were possible. Even folks who might be skeptical about, say, energy work, found they couldn't really argue with the direct experience of feeling currents of energy between them, or this sense of being held by something larger.
Right. And this connects directly to the philosophy underpinning many tantric practices, which are all about exploring that interplay of energy, intimacy, and conscious awareness to enhance connection. It's about creating that sacred space for transformation.
So it poses the question, is intimacy just emotional and physical?
Or is it also spiritual? The sources strongly suggest that when two people commit to being fully present with each other, something genuinely sacred emerges in the space between them.
And that sacred quality doesn't just stay in the practice.
No, it starts to infuse everything. How you eat together, how you handle disagreements, how you just are together. It adds a different quality to the everyday.
Let's circle back to that erotic flow idea. It sounds like while not every single yoga session ends in sex,
Definitely not.
the aliveness and attraction it cultivates always enhances the potential for sexual connection later.
That's exactly the feedback. When you consistently spend time truly seeing each other, appreciating each other, breathing together, moving in harmony, desire becomes almost an inevitable byproduct. But it's a desire rooted in deep presence and love, not just physical need.
Desire rooted in presence.
Yeah. And interestingly, it's not just about frequency, though that often increases. It's more about this constant low-level arousal.
Okay. Explain that.
It's not necessarily sexual arousal all the time, but
Right.
more like life arousal, a
Yeah.
presence arousal. Everything just feels more vivid, more alive, both within you and within the relationship.
Life arousal. I like that. Okay, for people wanting something concrete to try, can you give us a sample sequence, maybe one for beginners?
Sure. Let's call it a heart-opening flow for beginners.
Okay.
Start with that easy seat with heart connection we talked about, maybe 5 minutes, just breathing and arriving together. Then move into seated cat-cow, holding hands, arching and rounding your spines together with the breath. Then a gentle partner twist, sitting back-to-back or side-by-side, using gentle resistance.
Okay.
And finish with supported fish pose. One partner lies back over the other's gently rounded back for a nice chest opener. Very supportive.
Lovely. What about for people with a bit more experience?
Okay, an intermediate sequence, let's call it trust and flow.
Right.
Maybe start with partner boat pose, finding that balance point together, holding hands.
The balancing one.
Then move into double downward dog. One supporting the other, requires good communication.
Definitely.
Follow that with partner warrior the third. One partner is the base. The other flies by balancing on their back or hips. It's playful, but requires focus and trust.
Wow, okay. The flying pose.
Yeah. And then end together in partner savasana, maybe lying side by side holding hands, or one person resting their head on the other's belly. Just stillness together.
And for both of those sequences.
Key things. Move slowly, breathe deeply throughout, and keep making eye contact whenever the pose allows. That's where a lot of the connection happens.
Great, thank you. Now let's hit some common objections head on. What about the person thinking, I am just not flexible enough for yoga, let alone partner yoga?
We hear that one a lot in the sources, and the answer is always the same. It's truly not about flexibility. It's about presence, connection, breathing together. The poses are just vehicles for that. You adapt them to your bodies.
Okay, what about my partner would never go for this?
Start really, really small. Don't even call it yoga initially, perhaps. Just suggest, hey, let's try just breathing together for 5 minutes after work. Frame it as stress relief. Often, once people feel the connection, they become more open.
Good tip. What if it just feels too weird or woo-woo?
Focus on the practical, research-backed benefits. Better communication, stress reduction, it's physical activity, good for fitness. You don't have to buy into anything esoteric to benefit.
And the classic, we just don't have time.
Even 15 minutes twice a week can make a noticeable difference. It's about consistency, not necessarily long sessions. Can you carve out 15 minutes?
Fair point. Last one. What if it just makes things awkward between us?
It might at first. Acknowledge that possibility, but often that awkwardness is just resistance to going deeper, to being truly seen. The sources suggest it usually passes pretty quickly once that feeling of genuine connection and support kicks in. The payoff is worth navigating a little initial awkwardness.
So, stepping back and looking at the big picture,
Yeah.
what are the overall shifts people see in their relationship dynamic?
Profound shifts. Increased patience is a big one. Dramatically improved communication, learning to speak from that centered presence rather than just reacting. And this deep, newfound respect for each other's bodies, boundaries, and inner worlds.
That sounds huge.
It is. The overarching theme is clear. Partner yoga builds trust, connection, intimacy, compassion, empathy, all the good stuff. It demonstrably fosters better physical, mental, and emotional health, individually and as a couple.
And you mentioned conflict resolution improving.
Significantly. Having that tool, okay, things are getting heated, let's just breathe together for 2 minutes before we continue this conversation, that's a game changer.
I can imagine.
And they develop this shared, often nonverbal language for intimacy, that ability to reconnect, even in a crowded room, with just a shared glance or a synchronized breath. It's like having a secret language of connection.
Wow. It sounds like it makes you true collaborators in each other's growth, each other's evolution.
Beautifully put. It reminds you that intimacy isn't just something for the bedroom. It's a way of being present with your beloved moment by moment.
So, wrapping this up, we've journeyed from that potential initial awkwardness all the way to these profound, almost spiritual dimensions of connection. It really seems partner yoga can shift a relationship from just functional to this living, breathing practice of love.
Absolutely. And if there's one core piece of wisdom distilled from all these sources, it's this. Deep intimacy. That true erotic flow isn't something you perform or manufacture. It naturally emerges when two people commit to showing up, fully, for each other, again and again, with presence and vulnerability.
Showing up fully. So here's a final thought for you listening. If love truly is a practice, what's one small step you could take this week? Just one to actively practice presence and connection with your partner, to move beyond routine, just for a moment, into that more sacred space.
And remember to trust the process if you do try it. Be patient with yourselves and each other. Avoid comparing your practice to anyone else's. Just approach it with curiosity, compassion, and maybe a little reverence for the bond you share.
Yeah. Show up fully for each other, whether it's through a shared breath tonight, a gentle touch, or just meeting their eyes for a moment longer than usual. Because doing that consistently, it transforms not just your intimacy, but your whole relationship and, honestly, your own capacity to love.